Welcome in to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast presented by BetMGM. I am BJ Cunningham, filling in for Brendan Glasheen, and I'm joined by my friend Tanner McGrath for Tuesday, Best Bets in Major League Baseball. You can hear Best Bets every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday morning during the regular season, so go subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen and find us on the Action Network's YouTube page. We are recording this on Monday night. We're looking forward to a full 15-game Tuesday slate, so let's jump right in it. Best bets, Tanner, you're going with the most exciting pitcher in baseball, Paul Skenes, for this Tuesday.
Yep. Happy to join you, BJ, on our little two-man podcast for this Tuesday, and we had to start with Paul Skenes. But before we start with Paul Skenes, I want to talk about Busch Field a little bit, or Busch Stadium. Busch is back to playing like a pitcher's park this season. It had a one-year aberration in 2023 where St. Louis was 5th in park factor. It's 14th this season, including 23rd in home run factor. So they're seeing about 11% fewer dingers than the average MLB park. Tomorrow, Tuesday, it projects as the worst run environment of the day. Some breeze is coming in from right center field, low 70s temps. Ballpark Pals weather model projects a minus 10% run factor, including a minus 21% home run factor. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals, they have been playing better, but that's mainly because the lineup has been trending up against right-handed pitching. But you're also facing off against Paul Skenes, who right now, it seems like he could very likely neutralize any lineup in his way. I mean, he just faced off against the Dodgers and pitched great. 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 11 whiffs on 48 four-seamers thrown. His splinker wasn't as dominant as usual, that splitter-ish pitch, but he still mostly overwhelmed some of the best hitters in the game. Betts, Ohtani, Freeman. He did allow 3 runs, but all came on homers. A 2-run dinger by Ohtani, a solo shot by Andy Pages. That's going to happen against the Dodgers. You can't really avoid that. And while the Cardinals have been trending up against righties, they still aren't Dodger level. And in Skenes' prior 3 starts, the Tigers, Giants, Cubs, 3 earned runs over 18 innings, 23 strikeouts, 54 whiffs, 3 walks. So now, among all pitchers with 20-plus innings pitched, he leads all of them in pitching plus, mainly because his command of his electric arsenal is getting better as he's settling into the MLB ranks. He had a few aberrations in that start against his opening day or his debut against the Cubs, but he's really settling in, really locating well right now. The splitter fastball combo is atrocious. I mean, it's just filthy, and he's mixing in some pretty interesting changeups. So really high on him, as everyone else should be. He will face off against Miles Mikolas, starting pitcher for the Cardinals. He is who he is now, approaching 36 years of age. He doesn't have the stuff anymore. Not sure he ever really had great stuff. But he ranks 2nd among qualified pitchers in location plus, keeping his walks way down. He's generating a lot more ground balls than he did last year, especially as he's mixing in more sinkers and changeups, forcing more weak contact ground balls. And on the whole, he's a positive regression candidate. His expected run indicators are closer to 4 than his 5.3 ERA, because he's got a solid strikeout to walk ratio thanks to his command. And I think he's getting a little unlucky with home runs. He's on pace for a career high home run per 9 rate. His home run to fly ball rate is about 4 points higher than his career average. His slider, his most used pitch, has a 30% home run to fly ball rate, which is just way, way too high. Totally unsustainable. The career home run to fly ball rate on that pitch is closer to 13%. He's thrown a few too many innings away from St. Louis, where he's allowed 7 home runs in 44 innings. He's allowed 12 home runs on the year, but StatCast projects that would be 10 if he pitched every inning at Busch. So I'm banking on some positive regression in a pitcher's park, especially against the Pirates, who ranked 28th in WRC plus against right-handed pitching on the year. They are swinging and missing a lot against the side. They are not elevating enough balls. Only 3 guys in the regular 9-man lineup have an above average OPS this year. And the Pirates boast the league's 3rd lowest expected weighted on base average against right-handed sinker changeup mixes, behind a pretty high 55% ground ball rate. So hopefully Mikolas will keep mixing in more soft stuff, and hopefully the Pirates will continue to not get a hold of anything. The Cardinals are also trending up because the back half of their bullpen has been awesome. I have a lot of love for Ryan Helsley, Jojo Romero, even Matt Liberatore and Andrew Kittredge a bit. The Cards rank third in bullpen expected FIP, second in bullpen pitching plus, mainly because they are locating really, really well and lead the league in bullpen walk rate. They don't make any mistakes, and they're forcing a lot more chases recently, actually. They have a 37% chase rate over the past 2 weeks, which is the highest among all bullpens during that stretch. The Pirates bullpen is closer to league average, but they do rank second in bullpen stuff plus, boast a 3.2 bullpen ERA over the past 2 weeks, and Colin Holderman has been awesome. I still have some belief in David Bednar too. I think he's good in the long run. He's having a tough season, but I'm a believer in that guy. And of greater importance, both units will be fully rested after an off day on Monday. Ballpark Pal projects this total around 6.8. And I think I agree. I think that considering the whole picture, 7.5 runs is a little too high. I would take it down to 7 even money even, but I think you're going to get 7.5 close to even juice. So I'll take that.
Yeah. What I really enjoy, Tanner, I'm sure people have seen it, but if you haven't, you should go Google it or not Google it, search it on Twitter. Is the 3D renderings of Skenes' pitches, the 100-mile-an-hour pitches coming at you, just so you can visualize how quick it actually gets in on you and how difficult it actually is to hit. I mean, he's incredible. So
the best one of those 3Ds was during his MLB debut against the Cubs when they showed how fast the fastball gets to home plate against Kyle Hendricks, whose 88-mile-per-hour fastball is the slowest in the league. I think they said Skenes' fastball got to home plate 8 feet before Hendricks' did, which is so funny and so crazy to think about. But yeah, he has he has unbelievable stuff. And as he's like starting to locate it a little bit better, because he always had that, but he had some sort of jitters. It's just getting better and better. And I think he posted a great start against the Dodgers, and he's going to face a step down in competition. I mean, he could shove again today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For me, I'm going with the Mets and Marlins over 7.5 runs at even money. So I think there's some concerning signs for Jesus Luzardo right now. He's got an ERA of 5, expected ERA is at 4. But if you start to dig into his individual pitches, his velocity is way down on his fastball, over a full mile per hour. It's almost 2 miles per hour down on his changeup. And the stuff plus numbers are down from last year too. I mean, his changeup and his fastball are both below 100 right now. He's got a really good slider. But the concerning thing here is that he is somebody who likes to throw the ball up in the zone, utilize his fastball up in the zone to try to generate a high fly ball rate. And he's just not doing that right now. And he's facing a Mets lineup that has a 388 expected weighted on base average against left-handed fastballs. That is the best mark in Major League Baseball. Mets are also top 5 against left-handed changeups. So not really that great of a matchup for Luzardo. On the flip side of it, Taylor McGill, 3 ERA, 4.85 expected ERA. He's a heavy fastball guy. And the stuff plus numbers are actually very, very good. He's just having location issues. He's got a walk rate closer to 10%. And the Marlins, if you dig into it, they're actually, overall for the season against right-handed pitching, they're not great. But if you just take right-handed fastballs, they're way closer to league average. If you look at expected weighted on base average, they actually have one of the highest deltas between actual weighted on base average against right-handed fastballs versus expected. It's almost like a 30-point difference. It's pretty crazy. So they are due for some positive regression here. So I think there's some concerning signs with both these starting pitchers who have expected ERAs well into the 4s. So I think 7.5 is far too low, especially at even money. So that'll be my best bet.
Yeah, Luzardo is just, and as the Action Network's resident fish expert here, Luzardo is a fascinating case study because he was obviously hurt to start the year. And I talked about this, I think, either last week or 2 weeks ago on this podcast. He took some 2 weeks off. He went and he made a single A start at Single A Jupiter, and he dominated there. And then he had 3 or 4 really good starts where he looked like his old self. But you're right, his velocity was way down. It was way, way, way down. But he was also locating a bit better then, and then he was forcing more weak contact. But you were worried about the velocity, and then everything came to a head against the Rays last time out, where he went 4 innings and allowed 9 earned runs. And every single one of the fly balls he allowed 3 fly balls. They all went either for a home run or like close to a home run. So Luzardo, something's going on with him. I think he's trying to do something different, and he hasn't quite figured it out yet. Because at his best, he really is his best. I fully believe that Tyler McGill is going to break out at some point. I do agree that I think his fastball location, like he might lean on that pitch too much. And you're so right. The Marlins are just undervalued at large because they started the season so terribly. And they're like, you're never going to carry on that pace. They're not the White Sox. They're not the Rockies. They're a little bit better than that. So yeah, I agree with you on the large. It's just the Luzardo thing. I can't get a read on him. I don't know on a game to game basis if he's going to shove or if that velocity problem is just going to come right back and bite him.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely see on Tuesday. All right, let's move on to Fade the Public. Our Fade the Public game is going to be the Philadelphia Phillies and Zach Wheeler taking on Cutter Crawford and our Boston Red Sox. 93% of the bets and 86% of the cash is on your NL Cy Young favorite currently right now, Zach Wheeler. Tanner, are you going to back our Red Sox or are you going to go with the public and take the Phillies?
Yeah, with 2 Red Sox fans on this podcast, it's only right that we talk some Sox ball. I don't mind first 5 innings over 4.5, and I'll make the case for it here. Start with this: 2 top 10 offenses against right-handed pitching. Even if they've been a bit up and down and consistent lately, there are some injury issues. But the Sox are in their much better split. They've been kind of brutal against left-handed pitching this year, but that's because they have a lot of lefties in the lineup. Starting with top of the order, Jarren Duran, who, by the way, just hit his league-leading 10th triple on Sunday. And just for fun, Duran has more triples than the Guardians, A's, Blue Jays, Rays, Marlins, Padres, Angels, Mariners, Giants, Braves, Astros, Mets, Pirates, Cardinals, Nationals, and White Sox, which is crazy to think about. Continuing on, Rafi Devers, who missed the last game but is apparently fine, should be back. Emmanuel Valdez, who's been filling in. Reese McGuire towards the back of the order. Dominic Smith, who's been sprinkled in there in the middle of the order. David Hamilton, who continues to get starts in the middle infield because we have no middle infield depth. And Zach Wheeler, obviously the rightful Cy Young favorite in the National League, but he has pretty intense platoon splits this season. Against right-handed hitting, 176 WOBA, 2.4 expected FIP. Against southpaws, 317 WOBA, 4.18 expected FIP. That's way more extreme than his career averages. But his expected FIP is about a run higher against lefties, and his weighted on base average is about 40 points higher. And the last time he faced these Red Sox was actually last May, and he allowed 4 earned runs across 5 1/3 innings. And maybe most importantly, his fastball velocity was way down in his last start. It was like down over a tick. And part of that is because in the start before, his fastball velocity was actually up, but it was still slightly down compared to his year average. And that worried me a bit because he couldn't quite blow past the Brewers. So he walked 3 of them across 7 innings, which is that's not like him. I think he might be a bit vulnerable here. On the flip side, Cutter Crawford goes for the Sox. He has ascended this season, thanks to Justin Willard and Andrew Bailey, the 2 best pitching coaches in the league. But he's finally seeing regression after a miraculous stretch of starts to begin the year. He's allowed 15 earned runs over his past 16 innings. He has a 5.2 ERA over his past 8 starts. I think he's somewhere in between the middle of his unreal start and his previous outings. But lately, like, his whiffs are down, walks are starting to bite him. He's walked at least 2 batters in 6 of his past 8 starts. And he's stopped stranding as many runners. He's allowed a few more home runs, stuff of that kind that'll kind of bring your profile back towards league average. But I do think he's looking a tad lost recently. And unfortunately, one of the best teams in the National League, the Phillies, they won't offer him any reprieve. And Fenway is always going to play like a hitter's park. It always will. You can play volleyball off that monster as much as you want. I would play the full game over, but these are 2 top 5 bullpens that are fully rested. But I think we'll see a few early runs. And I will also, to cap this off, and I think you agree with me here, I think the line is high on the Sox because Wheeler looks vulnerable. Cutter is probably due for a better start after a string of just challenging ones. And the Phils might be missing Trey Turner and Brandon Marsh, which is kind of important to their lineup. I would need closer to plus 150 to play it. Ballpark Pals model makes it plus 125. I'm curious to see what your model makes it. And I'm worried because the Phillies are 40-16 as a favorite this year, which is nuts. That's a 15% ROI if you bet them every game. And unfortunately, the biggest problem about all this, the Red Sox are exactly 500. They're 33-33. And you would need them to be a game over 500 to fade them and a game under 500 to back them. So who knows what happens here? I'm fascinated to hear what you have to say about our Red Sox, BJ.
Yeah, so I have the Red Sox at plus 130 here, which I think is closer to fair because
that sounds right.
Like you mentioned, there's this massive split advantage for the Red Sox, who could get 6 left-handed bats into their lineup if they start Reese McGuire over Wong. So there's 6 left-handed bats that Wheeler's going to face. And if you look at the locations of a lot of Wheeler's pitches, the 4-seam and the sinker tend to live on the outside corner against right-handed right-handed hitters, because he doesn't want to go inside against them, and he tends to dominate hitters out there. When he goes inside there to left-handed hitters, that's where he's getting hit pretty hard. So I think that's why you're seeing those massive split advantages. The Phillies are also coming back from London. So there could be a tad bit of jet lag. If anybody has traveled from overseas, it takes a full day and some to get over that jet lag. So we could see a little sluggish from the Phillies, maybe not, but there's always that possibility there. And yeah, generally, I think Wheeler is a tad overvalued. He does have great numbers, and it's, if you truly dig into him, it's very hard to find weaknesses other than the split advantage. And the Phillies have been very good against Cutter Crawford's top 2 pitches. But for the full game, you mentioned it, both these bullpens are top 5 in baseball. From Stuff Plus to Pitching Plus to XFIP, the Red Sox are pretty much dead even with the Phillies. And these are 2 very good defensive teams as well. So there's really not advantages on the flip side for the Phillies, other than the fact that they've faced a lot of bad right-handed pitchers this season and have dominated them, so their numbers have gotten inflated. So for me, I agree with you. I think the Red Sox are a tad undervalued here. Again, I would only play them if it got it to plus 150. It's currently best price is plus 140 at the time we're recording this. Hopefully we'll get a little steam on Wheeler here, but just generally think the Red Sox are a tad undervalued.
Yeah, your point about the Phillies coming back from London, I didn't even think about that. That's a pretty significant rest advantage. And also the Red Sox,
how many times in the NFL do we talk about that, right?
The travel advantage. Yeah,
travel.
We don't talk about it as much in baseball.
But they have a week. They have a week to deal with that, right? This is 2 days. They traveled back on Sunday, they got home, and now they got to go to Boston.
And they played a wild game on Sunday too. They came down to a last inning double play. The Red Sox bullpen is an interesting case study and needs a little bit more investigation. But the ascendance of Brennan Bernardino and Justin Slayton, a little bit Cam Boozer, has really offset some of the weaknesses shown more by specifically Kenley Jansen, who's kind of struggling this year. But once again, it's just the Red Sox pitching coaches have taken everyone in the staff and made them, 150% better. So I think keep an eye on the Action Network app, because I think one of us might end up playing them if the public money moves the line.
And I will say, as we go further into this episode, we are recording this. We have 4 games where we don't have a confirmed starting pitcher or really any lines. So we're kind of dealing with a 11 game slate as it is. So that's a good point to stay tuned to the Action Network app for myself, Tanner, Sean, Charlie, whoever is in there for bets that we might place throughout the night or into the morning. All right, let's move on to our favorite underdogs of the day. Tanner, who are you going with?
Let's talk about the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim on the money line. They're playing at the Arizona Diamondbacks. I caught plus 152 on Monday night. I think that's a very unreasonable line. I think that's a great bet. And I think we have a large enough sample size now to declare the Angels an all right lineup. Check out what Logan O'Hoppe, Luis Renigfro, Taylor Ward are doing this year. Ward is actually significantly underperforming, quite drastically, about 40 points under his expected weighted on base average. At the minimum, I think they're a damn good lineup against southpaws. They're 7th among MLB lineups at WRC plus against lefties. They're 5th over the past month. Kevin Pillar is sliding into the lineup more and more and is absolutely crushing southpaw pitching, posting a 1,400 OPS against lefties. Although in a very limited sample size, still it's crazy. But Joe Adell's OPS jumps over 500 points when facing left-handed pitching. Renigfro has an 1,100 OPS against the side. Zach Neto, too. Ward and O'Hoppe have performed better against lefties. The Angels can hit lefties flat out. And they certainly can hit lefties as well as, or better than, the Snakes, who have posted an 88 WRC plus against the side over the past month, mainly because they're not remaining disciplined and hitting way too many balls on the ground. They have a 50% ground ball rate and a 5% walk rate against the side over the past month. That is good news for the Angels because we have a lefty on lefty starting pitcher matchup on Tuesday in Arizona. And why not keep fading Jordan Montgomery, who has lost 2 ticks of velo on his fastball? He's now sitting 92 on average, under 92 on average. So he can't strike out anyone. He's on pace for a career low strikeout rate, 14%, and swinging strike rate, 10%. And he's forced then to nibble around the edges more, specifically with his curveball, which has seen a pretty big uptick in his usage, where he's on pace for a near career high walk rate, 9%. He just faced off against the Giants, Mets, Marlins, Tigers, and Reds twice. A bunch of average to below average to hapless lineups, and posted a 7.5 ERA with 21 strikeouts to 14 walks in 30 innings. He couldn't even muster up anything more than 2 innings against the Giants last time out. Allowed 8 earned runs over 4 innings against the Mets in the pitcher-friendly ballpark that is Citi Field. It's bad out here for Jordan Montgomery, and he's about to face a pretty significant step up in competition. Conversely, it looks like Angels starter Jose Suarez is due for some positive regression. His expected ERA is 2 runs lower than his actual. He has the classic indicators of positive regression: low strand rate, high BABIP. He's wild, no doubt. He walks a lot of batters, but he's got 3+ pitches by Stuff Plus, has seen a big year-over-year increase in his strikeout rates, and is forcing a near 50% ground ball rate. Remember what I just said about the Snakes against left-handed pitching, by the way. Suarez is a bullpen arm. This is going to be a bullpen game. I don't know if he will last long into this game. He will probably act as an opener, 3 innings, hopefully 4. But I wouldn't be surprised if Montgomery doesn't go deep either. And in the end, I power rate these bullpens exactly the same. They have identical expected FIPS, identical WARs. The Angels actually have better pitch modeling metrics, advanced pitch modeling metrics. The Snakes have a higher upside bullpen, but it's not like Joe Mantley, Thompson, Paul Sewell, Kevin Ginkel are performing much better than Garcia, Strickland, Estevez. These are 2 bad bullpens, and they're both fully rested. So I'd make this an even matchup. The Snakes are a way better defensive team, but that can't account for too much considering the pitching matchup and the Angels' arguably better lineup, especially considering the vast platoon splits. So at the minimum, I'd make the Angels closer to Ballpark Pal's projection, which is plus 125. I don't think they should be catching close to plus 150 even on the road, where, by the way, they are 14-16 as a road dog this year, producing a 10% ROI if you bet them every game. So I love the Angels at anything north of plus 140, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have the Angels at 145, so not too bad there. The thing about the Diamondbacks as well is they started out the season incredibly hot against left-handed pitching, and they've started to kind of cool off. They were in the 350 weighted on base average range. Now they're down to like 335, so they haven't been as good against lefties as they were in the past. And you're so right about the Angels, is that I think from just a public perspective of them, I'm sure people just look at them and they just say, well, they're like the most uninteresting team in baseball. Mike Trout is hurt. So
that's the
suck,
big thing.
right?
Mike Trout is out, so their lineup must be terrible. But that doesn't bear out in the numbers. And the Diamondbacks thing is they were overperforming early in the season, and now regression has come for them in a big, big way. And that explains why they're 4 games that are 500, 5 games.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah,
love the Angels.
Yep. And the Angels are, like you said, they're very good against left-handed pitching as well. So they have great, whenever you can get them against a lefty, they're always going to be a live underdog.
It seems like
Um,
the hate has overshifted against the Angels because they have, some young stars, and like I really like Taylor Ward, and so
mhm.
they're just getting zero love in the public betting markets when
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, they're 14-16 as a road dog, and they're producing a 10% ROI. They're beating the market. I think they're very undervalued.
Yep, for sure. For me, I like another California team, the A's plus 130 against the Padres. So Randy Vasquez is a very interesting case because his numbers are garbage. Like he's got a expected ERA well over 5. His expected weighted on base average allowed on his top 3 pitches are well over 370. But he's got one of the lowest walk rates in baseball. He's got a great location plus rating. His stuff plus rating is 107. So it's like this very puzzling case of a guy who's got good stuff, has good control of it, doesn't walk anybody. But when he puts the ball in the zone, it's just getting hit. And that's just quite frankly what is happening. And, for a guy who has an expected ERA well over 5, the A's have been worse off against right-handed pitching lately than they were at the beginning of the season. But still, it's a decent matchup here for Oakland. And Oakland will have JP Sears on the mound, who's a perfectly fine average starting pitcher. He's got around a 4 expected ERA. He's got a great sweeper. He's got a decent fastball. Like he's a very, very average to maybe slightly above average type of pitcher. And Padres are going to be in their split disadvantage. They're really, really bad against left-handed pitching. Specifically, JP Sears has an excellent sweeper. The Padres are bottom 5 in baseball and expected weighted on base average against left-handed sweepers. So I only projected the Padres at minus 106. I think the A's have the better starting pitcher in this matchup. And with the Padres, not having a great split advantage, it almost makes the offenses kind of even. And then obviously Oakland's bullpen is, on par. They've kind of regressed a little bit, but they're pretty much on par with the Padres as well. So I think this matchup's a lot more even than just, giving the Padres home field advantage and an advantage offensively for over the A's. So I like the A's at plus 130.
Yeah, this was going to be my dog. This was like my second choice, so I totally co-signed with you on the A's. And the thing about the A's is, like we've talked about so much with the Red Sox and Andrew Bailey and Justin Willard revolutionizing the Boston pitching staff by no longer throwing fastballs, the A's have done the exact same thing. They ranked 4th in fastball usage last season at 52%. They're 26th this year, 43%. And that's had some of the most drastic effects on guys like Paul Blackburn, JP Sears, and Mason Miller. And the A's they're a top 10 pitch. They're a borderline top 10 pitching staff from front to back. And I fully agree that Sears is a perfectly fine starting pitcher who's probably overperforming because his pitching staff is making him throw his best weak contact and whiff pitches more. And the A's are doing that across the lineup, and they should take advantage of a Padres team, like you said, can't hit left-handed pitching.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty novel concept, right? Just have your pitchers throw their best pitches more often than the other ones, right?
I literally think that the Red Sox are going to revolutionize how Major League Baseball staffs throw. And what's funny is that I wrote a column about the Guardians Park Factors for the Action Network that's going to get published early Tuesday morning, so go check that on the app. Fastball usage so Fangraphs started tracking pitch usage in 2002. Fastball usage this season is at an all-time low. It's 47%. In 2002, the inaugural season, 64%. So teams are finding out more and more that fastballs have more damage attached to them and off-speed and secondary stuff doesn't. It's just that the A's and the Red Sox are ahead of the curve on that. It's a Moneyball-like change to the way that we're approaching the art of pitching, and it's really something.
Well, it's even crazy because, like, if you think about it, right? Like there is an element of pitching. Like if you throw too many off-speed pitches, you become predictable, and then as soon as you hang one, you get hit a lot harder than a fastball. Like that's just the truth behind why we haven't seen like teams just throw like only junk. But the reality is if you have pitchers where they, if you look through their stuff plus numbers as well, somebody like Sears, who like very clearly his best pitcher is the sweeper, maybe we should have him throw that 40% of the time instead of 20% of the time, right? We're not going to have him throw it every single time, but increasing that percentage of your best pitch, it's like, yes, the most duh type of thing in the world, but baseball has been obsessed with velocity forever, basically since the steroid era, right? So,
Yeah,
it's just,
and low velocity fastballs are the most vulnerable to the most damage. And guys like Sears fit that profile. But even when you use your secondary stuff more, that has a relationship with the efficacy of your fastball. Because it's like Andrew Bailey described it in an interview with Jen McCaffrey of The Athletic. Fastballs are like a jab. You need to locate your jabs supremely well and in the right places in order for them to be effective. You can't fall behind, 2-0 in the count and then start mashing the zone with low velocity fastballs because you will get obliterated every single time. So it's a fascinating conversation. And I love what the A's and Red Sox are doing.
I know, it's the art of pitching is just fascinating, right? All right, let's move on to our final bets. That's all I have for today. Stay tuned to the Action Network app in case I play anything else. But Tanner, you have one more pick in a very good game against the Yankees and Royals.
Yes, I absolutely love this bet. I've got the Yankees at the Royals over 9 runs. I got it at low juice on Monday night. I would play this up to 9.5 even money. As opposed to Busch Stadium, Kauffman Stadium will always play like a hitter's park. It has the highest park factor among any park this year. The wind will always play at Kauffman, and we're supposed to get breezes straight out to center field, and it's going to be pretty hot, mid-80s temps. Ballpark Pal projects it as the second best run environment of the day. Of greater importance, and something that we have talked about, I think, every Monday that we've been on this podcast together, these are 2 insanely overvalued pitching staffs. And we'll start with the Yankee starter, Marcus Stroman. Stroman's a sinker baller, and that pitch is still working. It's fueling his still relatively high 49% ground ball rate, but he has become increasingly erratic with his secondary pitches. His location plus metric has dropped 5 points year over year. The location plus on his slider curveball mix has dropped 10 points. He cannot find the zone with his secondary stuff. He can't place his secondary stuff. His slider has a 25% zone rate. That's in the second percentile among MLB starters. He's generating no strikes with his secondary stuff. He's seen a 10-point decrease in his zone rate over the past 2 years, from 46% to 38%. And that 38% mark ranks in the first percentile among qualified Major League Baseball pitchers. He is actually still striking out a relatively average for him, 18% of batters. But the bigger problem with not finding the zone is he's walking a career high 10% of batters. And even worse, the ground ball rate on his sinker has actually reached a career low 54%, meaning his relatively high 49% ground ball rate is actually a career low for him, and he's allowing enough hard contact now in the air to create a home run problem. He's allowed 10 on the year after allowing 9 across 140 innings last season. He's a sinker baller. He needs to throw stuff in the zone and pitch to contact, but he can't find the zone. He can't. He's trying to throw more cutters, which is a Yankee classic. DeBundo used to always say, the Yankees give guys cutters and then hope it works, and it actually has been his best pitch, but it's not good enough to force any whiffs, and guys are still making plenty of hard zone contact on it, so it's not like he's overcompensating for the rest of his now vastly below average arsenal. His 3.04 ERA is not representative of the pitcher he is. His mid-4s expected earned run indicators are, and we should see more negative regression after he allowed 5 earned across 4 2/3 against the Twins last time out. In that start, he struck out 2, walked 2, and allowed 2 homers. It's good for a 10.5 FIP. Like the rest of the Royals pitching staff, sans Garrett Cole Hamels Reagans, Glasheen messed up that name on Monday's episode. Brady Singer is vastly overperforming. A super high strand rate, a low BABIP, classic indicators are buoying his 2.8 ERA, which really should be closer to his 4.5 expected ERA. He's striking out a lot of guys, possibly due to he has good deception because he has a lead extension. And he's, as we just talked about, he's using his best pitch, the slider, more than ever. It's now his most used pitch. But I think it's all a mirage because his swinging strike rate hasn't increased. It's still 9%. And his stuff profile, his advanced his advanced pitching model profile is mediocre. And he's still struggling with barrels. He's still struggling with hard contact. And the Royals defense, which ranks 23rd in defensive runs saved, is not good enough to sustain their pitchers' overperformance. Even if Singer is forcing a good amount of ground balls, it's going to a not great infield defense. The Royals, minus 19 defensive runs saved at first and second, are the worst in Major League Baseball. And again, as we've talked about so much, both bullpens are vastly overperforming. The Yankees more than the Royals. The Yankees pair a 3.1 reliever ERA, that's third in baseball, with a 4.2 reliever expected FIP, that's 21st. They're 15th in bullpen WAR, 20th in bullpen strikeout minus walk rate, but they're 7th in bullpen strand rate, about 5% over league average. And if you dive even deeper into their bullpen, Clay Holmes pairs a 1.4 ERA with a 2.9 expected FIP. Ian Hamilton pairs a 2.9 ERA with a 4.2 expected FIP. Luke Weaver pairs a 2.8 ERA with a 3.4 expected FIP. And these guys, by the way, all of the Yankees relievers were used heavily over the past week, including across that monster weekend series with the Dodgers. Holmes and Weaver had to toss 50 pitches to save the series on Sunday Night Baseball. And I think the whole Yankees unit, I think the whole team could be a bit tired after that monster series. And then they went and they played on Monday against the Royals in Kansas City, bringing us to the Royals bullpen, who are last in bullpen expected FIP, last in bullpen stuff plus by a mile. They have a 5.1 ERA over the past 2 weeks behind an 11% walk rate and a 40% hard hit rate. They have accounted for 4 losses during that stretch. And as we've talked about, as I've talked about, John Schreiber, James McArthur, Chris Stratton, Angel Zerpa, that quartet was never going to headline an elite bullpen, and they are actually going to headline probably the worst bullpen in Major League Baseball. And finally, let's talk about the ever dangerous lineups. Over the past month and against right-handed pitching, the Bronx Bombers have posted a 133 WRC+. That's the highest in baseball by 5 points. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are demolishing right-handed pitching. But all the Yankees' bench pieces and depth pieces perform a lot better against that side too. The other 2 lefties in the Yanks lineup, Rizzo and Verdugo, hit substantially better against right-handed pitching. Rizzo specifically. But the same goes for Giancarlo Stanton, who has an 840 OPS against righties, but a 540 against lefties. And the same goes for Anthony Volpe, Oswaldo Cabrera, Gleyber Torres. On the other side, over the past month and against right-handed pitching, the Royals rank 11th in Major League Baseball with a 106 WRC+. The Royals, they just hit the ball hard, man. Sal Perez, Vinny Bascatino, Bobby Witt, they have a great top of the order. The Royals also boast the league's 4th best expected weighted on base average against right-handed slider sinker mixes, which cannot be good for one Marcus Stroman. By the way, Royals overs are 7-3 in their last 10 games. So I think they're hitting hot. They're hitting the ball hard and finally seeing some regression around that pitching staff that we've been trying to fade all year. For example, the running well maestro, Seth Lugo, finally got shelled in his last start, which was my best bet for last week's payoff pitch when I took the over in that Royals game. Over the past month and against right-handed pitching, the Yanks are 3rd in expected weighted on base average. The Royals are 5th. These are 2 great lineups against righties, 2 very vulnerable right-handed starting pitchers, 2 very, very vulnerable bullpens, great hitting weather. Ballpark Pal projects this total around 9.8. I think over 9 is stealing. I think over 9.5 at even money is good too. And I'm just hoping this number doesn't get steamed up by the morning with the wind conditions coming in. So yeah, love it.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm actually going to be on it with you because I just checked my projections here and I have this total at 9.75. So I'm actually right in line with what Ballpark Pal actually has. You know, and to add on to your point about Brady Singer, because I feel like I've written about him like 5 times this year. You mentioned it. Just his stuff plus numbers on his fastball and his sinker are just absolutely garbage. Like it's horrible compared to an average major league pitcher. And he's just relying on that slider. Well, the Yankees have the 3rd best expected weighted on base average in baseball against right-handed sliders. So it's a horrible matchup for him. And then, like you mentioned, once you get into the Royals bullpen, it's like you got one of the best lineups in baseball just taking batting practice against them. So yeah, I'm with you definitely over 9 runs at even money. All right, that will do it for this episode of Payoff Pitch. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. for a chance to win Action Swag or a free Action Pro subscription. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in the episode description of the podcast. For Tanner McGrath, I'm BJ Cunningham. We'll be back for more best bets for Friday's slate. Thank you for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, presented by BetMGM. Good luck with all your bets, and we'll see you next time.